Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Brown. Before getting into my remarks, I just want to make a personal observation that this is what courageous, principled, political leadership looks like. This is the second year in a row I've stood beside a governor who's a former prosecutor who came to the very reasonable conclusion that the death penalty was so broken it needed to be abolished. It was just 20 years ago when we saw another governor. This is the first state below the Mason-Dixon line to do this. And it was just 20 years ago when we saw another governor, young, inspiring, from south of the Mason-Dixon, make a very different decision. And we should all take pride today that our country is evolving. And the sort of leadership we see from these two men is signs that our country is evolving in the way that our country is destined to evolve. You'll hear from President Gerald Stansbury, and I want to be very clear that the volunteers of the Maryland State NAACP have had an incredible year. They stood up for marriage equality. They stood up for the DREAM Act. They stood up to abolish the death penalty. They turned out more voters than many thought was possible. And they did it under the leadership of this man, Gerald Stansbury. He is a hero. But as I look out there as the president of the biggest and the baddest civil rights organization, I see many other organizations that need to be named. And I will miss some, and I apologize for that. But the National Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty, State, Maryland Citizens Against State Executions, Maryland case. Our fierce allies in Equal Justice USA. The truly indomitable Kirk Bloodsworth and Witness to Innocence. All the murder victims' family member organizations. And of course, all the faith organizations, and especially the Catholic Church in this state. We are very, very grateful. This is a big day for Maryland. It is a big day for the US of A. Maryland today becomes the 18th state to abolish the death penalty, first below the Mason-Dixon. In doing so, it joins every other Western country and almost every country on the planet. There are notable exceptions: China, North Korea, Iran. But most importantly, today, Maryland pushes America towards abolishing the death penalty and rejoining its rightful place as the global leader in the struggle for human rights. As many of you know, we need to get to 26 states before we can go into the U.S. Supreme Court and make the argument that this punishment is not just cruel and out of step with the mores of our nation, but also unusual. The litmus test for unusual is state law. It's the most common, most important. We must get to 26 states. We have 4 more states that are in play this year. Maryland, we've just taken care of. The 4 next are Delaware, Kansas, Colorado, and even New Hampshire. We may not win all of them this year. We may not win one more this year, but we have won every year for the last 6 years, and I guarantee you we will win 8 more in the next 8 years.